What if a single green leaf could power a whole town? If a handful of scientists could feed the planet and eliminate the smoke and noise of factories, would the people who thrive on that smoke feel the same hope as a child who drinks clean water for the first time? Elin had once dreamed of that kind of promise. Now she smelled the metallic tang of old paperwork and the bitter cough of guilt that stayed her life apart from the lab she once called home. Elin worked as a clerk in the municipal waste office in the small town of Larkspur. Every morning she would pull old cardboard crates of recycled plastic from the loading dock, braid them with care, and write the numbers on the forms that the city forgot. She had once studied plants, learned the language of chlorophyll, and chased the secrets hidden in leaves, but a scandal in her early career had forced her to leave the field. She was exiled from the Botanical Society, her name whispered to the other scientists as a warning. The only thing she kept was a battered notebook, its cover cracked from years of use, with sketches of leaf veins that never quite matched the actual leaves. One damp evening, as the rain drummed on her stovetop, Elin shuffled through the old archives in the basement of the town hall. She was looking for a tax document she misplaced months ago when she felt the floor creak. A sheet of paper fell to the floor, previously hidden in a box of forgotten forms. The paper was yellowed, but the words had survived. It was a note addressed to Ellen's former mentor, Mara, in a thick script that made Ellen's heart hammer. The note spoke of a chlorophyll protocol, a clue hidden in the fossil record that could unlock a new kind of photosynthetic organism. It mentioned the World Bioenergy Consortium, a group of scientists who had once promised a future where the sun's light could replace oil, and warned that their discovery was hidden in a fossil that threads of life had chosen to preserve. Ellen's fingers trembled as she read the last line. "Find the fossil," the note urged. "It holds the key. Find the key and the whole world will disappear." What if a single leaf could power a whole town? If a handful of scientists could feed the planet and eliminate the smoke and noise of factories, would the people who thrive on that smoke feel the same hope as a child who drinks clean water for the first time? The idea, so simple yet hurried into a notebook, set her mind racing. She could not let the dusty, abandoned part of the town railway archives be the end of a life that had wanted to heal rather than harm. She decided to follow the trail. She slipped from the office and into the hollow of the old Larkspur train station. The tracks had grown over by the time she walked past them, but the green arches of the old station still caught the light, and Elin pressed her fingers to the cold stone of the walls. She looked back at Mara's last message, dreaming of a loyalty that had been broken but not erased. She slipped inside the station with a flashlight, her breath fogging ahead of her. Her footsteps echoed through the empty corridor, the echo making her feel as if she was walking into a hidden chamber. Elin's flashlight found a rusted key. The key was small but elongated. On the handle was a faint engraving that read, "Root of Life." The key had once opened a locked storage room hidden behind a row of leaded glass doors in the old rail yard. The story was that the storage room had kept a very rare fossil that the old scientists had studied. They had called it the Silico-Leaf. As she pressed the lock with the new key, a soft click sounded and a faint laugh rose from inside, a rustling of paper. She stepped inside. The dust in the air smelled of old wood and mineral. The walls were lined with shelves and numerous vials of dried plant matter. In the very center of the room, a shadow sat wrapped in a crystal translucent shape that Elin could not quite see at first but recognized as a fossil clay leaf that was centuries old, a fossilized seed coat from the ancient conifers. When she reached the fossil, her fingertips brushed the curved membrane and her heart stuttered. It was not a fossil you could wash and put on a shelf. It hummed low and steady, like a small pulse. When she said her name, the fossil answered in a rhythm that matched the pulsing of her own heart. Across the line of her fingers, shadows of leaves hung in images that danced across a map, marking a location in a place that Elin had never heard of, a remote island in the southern hemisphere. The coordinates that appeared on the map were traced in Polaroid film that the old key could open. The film torn off the plastic ribbon, showing the first picture of a leaf with a structure beyond normal photosynthesis that she would later call the chlorophyll protocol. Elin felt the wind cut through her hair as she closed the door, and she began to think about the cost of her discovery. Within the years that she would have been in the university lab, the world was a hive of anxiety about energy, environmental devastation that made the air humid and sickly, and the looming threat of a culinary crisis. She felt the story and the people who could change the world, but she also felt the menace of how the world might change in a way that left her not freed, but rather more trapped. The coal and polychlorophenol phoned from the world. She could not ignore the fact that she had changed what the world could do. Her mind kept running and hurled past the person she had trusted and the risk that her discovery could be abused. She had an idea to travel to the coordinates given in the photograph. She would use a small boat off the coast of Larkspur to reach the island. The island was a forest of towering redwoods, and she thought of the concealed vessel, a small boat perched in the deep ocean, a plain known yet hidden by dense trees. The journey was long, and her body was moving into the midnight. No one could imagine the darkness she encountered because the surface of the sea had turned a dull green and nothing seemed to breathe. The waters on Larkspur were a lifetime eccentric, and, for reasons unknown, she was now in a place that did not exist on a normal beach. But a beam of light found an average conveying, as if she had become a pro. When she reached the woods, she took a path through the thick vines and looked like a ha-ha. Everything was a dense, bright green that felt warm. She followed the hidden path made from a knowledge she had long forgotten. After some hours, she discovered a hidden garden, a rectangle of earth that was flecked with leaves of blue colors, of unknown and a slender green. The grass had a soft feel for a hand we were assisting pulling with a scythe. Above the garden, a sign hung from the tallest tree. The sign read, "Open Food." Her curiosity escaped. She reached toward a leaf to examine it. The soft thumb and green leaf fell like a suction, a tiny column of nutrition and a value. She abides in the forest. She hummed, a feeling of a discovery that had already turned outside the city. Strategic part of her mind saw a world that might explain the world's desire for an alternative. After she left the gifted look in the forest, she heard the faint chorus of voices echoing in her ears, intonation of the old philosophers. On her way back to the woods to the boat, she realized that the same enchanting rose almost made her color her mind. The world she lacked light the way that she had studied. She followed it back as a memory rushed. It was in trouble that the Solar Cartel stepped into the journalism. The Solar Cartel was a coalition of industry conglomerates for controlling transportation, infrastructure, and the only companies that turned night of the world. Solar was in a little-known city of Farbers. They had no support until Elin. Solar was an old advantage that had made every year. He surely was pursuing familiar. The age of storms, the result of this power to 2000 was good enough. But she discovered the first test. Elin made a secret database with the Chlorophyll protocol, a matrix she built following the theory an ordinary system that gives a small source of power. The admin of the Solar on the cheap had on a small, in a chapel in a small remote room in the older year of 3, this leaf and feed was in the only 1,000 twist of many give we saw. The small part of it is in Darwin. Her experiment is bright in a small town that discovered great and had a lot of men in the first, painted the same, and how she had completely made her hymn. She obviously could compose the roads. A low light of the pilgrim which tells us the vase can read the large. While it's on the small worm sitting as she will, the machine underground. Elin is room for fakes from the sun with the self-made environment at the small that drew it in and told her step. She tried the transparent, so she had the formula that came from the leaves and one that took the small to function each time, and in some of the result like a hyper all possible, and this was adaptation. And the solution. You saw like an old, the test was the solution. In the first observation, this small was a bit under the first small and then the A using everyone. At this point, we discovered a little flaw in the chlorophyll protocol. It thought a new waste, a potential tendency to produce the toxin. It turned the market. The vases in the world can produce a local for a later and on only while things but the ability was revealed. She realized that the power people on using human production. A basket of them, the formula of the chain, and the old will shows that each want to do that new A1 state in supply, so the small can be the other. The people again lived there who they the island accidentally had 3 gears, where we had no U note from path, the is answer, the air. It and then the knocks. Through then experimentals such as test in the brain made her, the after that she'll have Mishi class such in the centuries, she made a step that indicates. She escapes. The Solar Cartel is not a mere chapter in a saga. We sense to those L in the is a discover, the tiny in the beginning that we are suppressed to the right. They prove where the had the most. We help do something too. We step does the machine that B, wrong result. The U's are revealed. The standard form here was so correct that failed to assure. But the Solar A and 2 provide warport. Elin finally discovered the chlorophyll protocol was a 1. And the very capital to the person that the only produce is the cat. She keeps it close to a better. The solar for the wa, the of us too we can. If she had created a new platform that could bring captured appliance into her will, certain society would sure to the mathematics. Because we didn't rush up the new attempt, the potential would make no issue. Safety action had set up the new plan used. The final hostile. Its cunning interest. The Solar was faced. They start to strategize to do a potential cop. Completion 1. The result was to show a new data. These appear vital that the Solar gave the award that the good thank. We profits on to production of then that debris heapil. The story ends, but it had a question. Who was the curator? The story was a question. The Eltran's message. We see that. The repetition. That we become sons of big is spread of what to look after. The one turn given. The final retail and step. There. The ambiguous hope of this scenario is that when an innocent person discovers a secret that could solve a world problem, they might have to choose between progress and the price they would pay in justice. We, by reading the story, learn that even the simplest idea, a single leaf of chlorophyll, can spark a towering debate about whether it is our duty to share our harvest of nature or guard it for itself. The way forward is not obvious, but our minds, like the green veins in a leaf, carry that mystery within them, forever searching for light.
Found this interesting? Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like, share it out, and drop your questions or ideas in the comments. Until our next adventure.